Chapter 17. Obsessions. We all have them. Some more benevolent than others, according to their wearers. Mine were backstories. I couldn't help but be curious over the lives of interesting characters that crossed my path. Sometimes, if I didn't quench the curiosity immediately, the long game would plague me. In any case, the trait seemed to save my life the day I got my first rejection, or at the very least, it helped me regain my stride after face-planting into my first big roadblock. The first hardball I'd faced had me wrapped up in my character, trying to keep it from unraveling in the face of potential unworthiness, while placing all my personal knowledge and previous victories on hold. Stuck in the balance. I allowed an anonymous character, Richard Henderson of Magpie Publishing Company, to temporarily tell me where my sense of self should stand. In those moments, my mind went to the strangest places for comfort. While swimming through the timeless space, occupied by the shame of being turned down for a publishing date with this particular agent, who didn't really have anything especially insightful to say over the why he'd chosen not to go with me, along with ambiguous well wishes toward my future success. My mind wandered. I listened to the coffee pot rumble to life, sputtering to let me know it was at least doing its job. My eyes got lost in the clean white fabric of my newest addition to the household. My mind wandered to the interaction between me and its sellers just weeks before. Two individuals with white blonde hair and steely eyes. No emotion stained their complexions. I was immediately curious. The scenes between our interacting cut into the picture being painted by the unexpected blow. I'd really thought I'd meant what I said when I thought I wouldn't care what answer I got so long as I received one, right up until that first email trickled into my inbox, labeled, "We regret to inform you." The notification had lit up my pocket and sent me into an excited frenzy. So you can see why the wall hurt so bad. I ran into that wall full speed, and I earned every bit of the kick in the pants that it gave me. I hadn't even imagined it would be my first interaction. Oh, I'm a silly little writer. At least they got straight to the point. We regret to inform you. Those 5 little words had been enough to turn a perfectly beautiful sunny day into a gloomy, storm-filled sad fest, fueled by coffee and, I'm not gonna lie, I got myself ice cream. Cliché, I know. But it's not like I had anybody to call. I'd already told myself I would only phone home with good news. I couldn't put one more reason to worry about me on my parents' mind. It was already enough that it was in my own. I hadn't thought it would hurt. I hadn't imagined the squeezing feeling that would develop in my throat, that made it hard to breathe or swallow. Never in a million years would I have imagined that one little email could set me on my butt for an entire day. I'd dealt with bullies. I'd dealt with people who had all kinds of fancy insults on the fly because that's what they had invested their time into, and it was literally the only tone they were good at. Although they maybe stung a little bit once in a while when they hit a raw nerve. Those hadn't hurt. Not even close. But this pierced me straight in the heart. As I read through a few pieced together paragraphs, that said so little and so much all at once. It made me question my convictions and resolve. I had to dull the roar with a little research therapy. I immediately looked up anything I could find on authors and their starts. I felt the relief pour in when I realized how many of them had faced rejections of their own. I suddenly felt a sense of camaraderie with complete strangers, some of which were long dead and yet still living on in their stories, to save little people like me on our worst days. For the rest of the day, I licked my wounds and my ice cream spoon late into the evening. At the end of my little pity feast, I had brought myself to cross out the agent's information 100 times with a pen, until it was all but a dark blank space full of pen ink. I drew a sad face next to it, and then frowny eyebrows. I was now on the warpath, and well aware I couldn't face each potential rejection with the same gusto. This was it. This was the one and only time I was going to let myself feel this bad over someone else's opinion. I was glad I'd set this directive for myself at that moment, because the next few days, responses started to pour back in, all of them eerily the same, until I realized my sample hadn't even warranted a humanized response. There was nothing personal about these emails. I'd received the insert name of rejectee here automated letters of generalized sympathies and regrets that the publishers were going to go in a different direction, or that the piece wasn't a good fit for them specifically. After realizing this, I couldn't decide which was worse, being considered and then rejected personally, or what I was currently experiencing, which was something along the lines of being overlooked or decidedly passed over, with very little effort in the decision-making process. After the first few days without any good news, I started to develop a nervousness or anxious process. Anytime my phone would ding, I would cringe. There was no more excitement left. I needed to change something. So I turned my phone on silent and decided I would only check my email moving forward every 4 hours. My inner writer found loopholes immediately. I would just go check on my computer anytime the anticipation volcanoed. I started telling myself as soon as I woke up. I started to develop a nervousness, which led to anxious processes, demanding more control over my life in areas that would have otherwise been perfectly in balance. I started telling myself as soon as I woke up, I had to get ready for my morning, make coffee, shower, and then I could check my email. Not before. I had to earn it. I guess I'm a sucker for punishment. The rest of the morning until the moment I would open my inbox to find new bold font re's. And again, most of them said the same thing. Re, about your query. I would sit without clicking or opening them, just psyching myself up. This one's going to be different. I have a certain feeling about this one. This is the golden ticket. The others just don't know what they're missing out on. But there's a piece of me, Maddie, I am almost embarrassed to admit to. A tiny little sneaking suspicion. Were they as good as I thought they were? After the first week, butterflies had officially waged a constant war against my gut. I started looking into technical meditative practices trying to figure out which methods might work best for me. They all felt like further torture at first, but then I ran across an article that suggested anything could be meditative, that relaxed or put the participant into a state of peace. I thought about my runs. By the end of them, I always felt peace. I made it my business to run every morning, first thing. And it actually helped. One morning, while in the middle of my little routine, it was like I saw myself standing at the coffee pot from an aerial view. I had frowny lines forming, and my face looked pinched. I found myself wondering, and then pictured how those lines would look if they remained constant enough for a month, a year, a few. If these were the feelings that came along with that expression, I didn't want to know what a lifetime of this would lead to. At that point, it was like, okay, I've got to do something different. I sat down on the floor, listening to the coffee pot sputtering behind me. How long can I take this? How do I adopt a better attitude when I feel like this city is tearing me to pieces? I imagined my previous mental image, me with little strings of energy attaching to those now explosive minds. The balls of energy exploding and leaving me with loose strings, limp and untethered. I needed to equally build myself up and be kinder to myself. There was no need for further punishment. My ego was being adequately spanked without my help. Oh, come on, who cares? The voice came with a familiar specter as Maddie popped into my mind. I smiled. Seriously, Cam, who cares? I care. I care a lot. They're rejecting our memories. Our favorite bedtime stories, the ones our parents would read out loud and proudly in front of friends. Come on, how could I not care? You're taking it too personally. Probably dodging bullets if they were the wrong fit. They could blow your chance at this, Cam. I nodded, feeling the pressure of the cabinet door resting at the back of my skull. I glanced up at the ceiling. I could really benefit from some allies. The thought rang free. With a sigh, I sent skyward. I lifted my head and let it fall back again. Some friends to conspire with? I tossed the inkling in for good measure. You don't need more noise, Cam. You need to learn how to focus. But focus on what? I thought for a moment. Maybe I get a part-time job, just to keep my social skills sharp. Maybe a coffee shop? Nah. I lifted my head again and let it fall back. Maybe a call center of some kind? No, definitely not. I didn't like being on phones to begin with. Why would I torture myself? I reached up to the counter above my head and felt around until my fingers touched my rubber phone case. I pulled it down. Help wanted, Emerald City. I typed into the search bar. I thought for just a minute before something brilliant came to mind. Personal assisting position. My smile widened as I wandered over the first few options that presented themselves. Live-in nanny and bookkeeper for a home business. Cool. Piano teacher and tutor for 2 middle school aged kids 3 times a week. Cool. Live-in maid and secretary. NDAs needed. Sounds like a weirdo. definite nope pile. From there, I followed the rabbit hole. After 15 minutes of grazing, I stood up to stretch my legs. I took a short bathroom and water break, still scrolling through job options on my phone as I swung around to the front side of the couch. I'd snagged the nearly brand new piece for a bargain off Craigslist. Still blew my mind just how cheap I'd gotten it. It was like a welcome home gift from the universe. I swiped the notebook from the coffee table as I passed it and fell into the soft cushions. I tapped the pen against the phone screen, considering an especially suspicious ad for a live-in PA with special boner fits. Wow. People watch way too much porn. Ugh. Pretty sure that was the only thought spinning through my head. As I'd scrolled for some reason I still don't know, I couldn't stop thinking about the luck I'd had with the cozy couch I was sprawled over. Why couldn't the queries be so easy? I chuckled and shook my head, letting my eyes roam through the want ads. The couch had been the largest in a set of 3. A couch, a love seat, and a lazy boy. The couple who sold it to me wanted to give them away together, but I was in love with the style and softness of it, and I only had room for the one. I think my excitement surprised them. Or maybe I was just the right amount of persuasive, because they agreed to part ways with it. They'd been impatient with last year's furniture that was still bogging down the garage and making it stuffy. Her words, not mine. They agreed to let me take the centerpiece for $300 cheaper than they'd been asking for all 3. While driving away, I felt like I'd stolen from them. But I'd felt strange. It was like I'd just stumbled over a strange hobby or routine that made them feel more connected. Maybe it was a family thing. Actually, big city rich people do strange things, or so they say. So maybe it made more sense than I realized. Like compulsively buy new furniture every year as the fashion shifts. But in my mind, my family only ever had one dining room table, while these never allowed themselves to grow fond or attached to anything. Her words, not mine. It made me wonder what their relationship was like behind closed doors. My hand scrolled mindlessly through advertisements my eyes were blind to. I was still thinking about the fact that neither of them had smiled or laughed. They were very polite and silent for most of the conversation. Akin to their decorations and color choices, the pair came across as eccentric, cold, and uncaring. Neither wore a ring on their special finger, and I couldn't be sure if they were siblings, lovers, roommates with similar goals and shared expenses, or who knows with this place. They didn't even seem to be concerned with money, so much as the appearance and vibe of their space. I was grateful for their indifference in the end. I got a new couch, in a price range I could afford. I couldn't understand it, coming from a family of emotionally attached furniture. Here I was, making off with the $1,000 gem this duo had sold to me for 30 measly bucks. I almost felt like I should sneak back to their driveway and stick an extra 50 in their mailbox. In the end, I decided the gesture wouldn't mean the same thing to them. As fate would have it, meeting them as strangers selling me a couch wasn't the last time I'd see these old money faces, the epitome of boredom embodied. With that, I flopped sideways on my couch with the notebook I'd snatched up and started taking down potential job options for the remainder of the day. For the remainder of the day, I completely forgot about the rejections.